Well, welcome one and all to the Golfstone Leadbetter University Virtual Summit. I'm very excited to have an esteemed panel of experts for you today. In case you were wondering what this session is about, we're going to talk about the advancements of technology in a traditional game of sport. And a huge amount has been said and written about technology in sport. And during this summit, we really wanted to make sure we covered all aspects of golf coaching, golf instruction, and the game itself. And it wouldn't be right for us to run a virtual summit talking about the game if we didn't introduce the topic of technology. So today, you're going to hear from a range of different opinions and different experts in the subject, all with a viewpoint and an opinion on how technology is changing the game. I'll give you a quick statistic to start off with. So in Korea right now, certainly for the recent history, there are actually more golfers who play on simulators than on golf courses. So you can imagine back in the day, back in Scotland, way back when this game was invented hundreds of years ago, I'm sure they would have had a very different opinion of what golf was than a group of guys having a couple of beers and playing in a simulator in the middle of Seoul. But that is the fact. That is the way that this game is changing, and technology is impacting every single aspect of the game, from equipment and technology and the various discussions around how far these tour players hit the ball these days, through to how the technology is actually evolving the sport of golf. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our panel of experts on the subject. In no particular order, but first up from Rapsodo is Art Chu, who's the general manager of the business, but has also a huge background and expertise in entrepreneurship, in technology, has an involvement with Stadia Ventures, who actually invest in tech startups. I know has a huge wealth of experience, and Art and I have had the chance to discuss the world of technology in golf because of what Rapsodo is bringing to the sport. So, welcome to the session.
Thanks, Ben.
Next up, James McDonald, Jimmy, our good friend from Golfzone. Jimmy's oversees the North American sales of the Golfstone simulators, and is part of the team that's really bringing some of the most interesting and exciting technology from Korea over here to the US and to the rest of the world. And there are many discussions that we have had as an organization since our involvement with Golfstone a couple of years ago, which is extremely interesting and is a real vision into what golf will be. So Jimmy, thank you for joining the panel today.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here, Ben.
Next up, my good friend Nick Longley from InRange. They are the most incredible group of scientists and technology experts from South Africa that I think they got bored of figuring out how to trace rockets and missiles and decided it was easier to do golf balls. So there's a fascinating new wave of golf technology that's coming through entertainment, but also coaching and practice on driving ranges. And Nick, as the co-founder of InRange, it's great to have you here today.
Very glad to be here. Thanks, Ben.
And last but certainly not least, Peter Maurice from Golf Digest, now Golf Digest Discovery Golf, one of the most esteemed writers on golf instruction over the years, and a great friend and close colleague of David's over the years with all the different instructional content, and obviously going through an enormous transformation over the last few years with the onslaught of digital media and entertainment and how golf is presented to the many followers, fans that we have around the world. So delighted to have Peter joining us today.
Thank you, Ben.
So, all experts to talk about technology. I thought the obvious way, or hopefully the most logical way to start this is to actually understand what your companies are bringing to golf in terms of technology. So, with kind of the opportunity now for a little elevator pitch, if you like, but certainly a chance for you to explain what you guys do. We'll start with Art. If I can come to you, and if you could just explain what Rapsodo produces, what is the company, and how is it helping in golf?
Sure, Ben. Thank you very much for that intro. So Rapsodo is a sports data analytics company, and our expertise is computer vision and machine learning, which is basically a long-winded way of saying that we use video and radar to track ball flight, to track things that are moving, and then get data out of it. We started in 2010. We have a very robust baseball business. So we have all 30 MLB teams. We have about 1,000 colleges and universities where we're tracking, ball flight and how the ball is spinning, how the ball is rotating through space for all of those all of those teams in the baseball softball world. In golf, we are the manufacturer and the originator of Skytrak, the Skytrak launch monitor. That's actually how we cut our teeth, is learning how to track golf balls with Skytrak, introduced in 2015, that we provide to Sky Golf. A year ago, we introduced the mobile launch monitor, which is basically taking a radar unit. It's a very small radar unit here. It uses the camera on your phone. So camera on your phone, Bluetooth to your radar in your cradle, and basically turns your mobile device into a launch monitor. Gets you swing video, trace, and all the data. And that was about a year ago. And now we're about to introduce, with our partnership with Golf Digest Discovery Golf, the Coach Connect aspect of the MLM, which allows you to now share those videos, the shot videos with the swing trace, with the shot trace, with the data, with your teaching professional, so that you can trade those back and forth and get remote lessons.
Thank you. I know we've been huge supporters of the technology and used them here at the Academy, and it's really changing how data can be captured. It's turning what was huge computers into a mobile phone, which is so simple and mobile to use. So I'm sure we'll get a chance to talk a lot more about the technology and certainly the partnership there with Golf Digest as well. So thank you, Art. Next up, Jimmy from Golfzone. I know there's so many different ways you could go, but if you can, just give the listeners a summary of what the Golfzone business is about.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a ton of different ways we could go here. Golfzone, we are a golf simulator manufacturer with a global footprint. So we're committed to growing the game via the technology side, right? We're using some pretty impressive stuff. There's a moving floor that'll actually tilt to simulate the terrain of the golf course. We use fairway rough and bunker mats. So it's really the most fully immersed system that you could possibly ask for. You can download the handout PDF for a little more detail on some of the bells and whistles that Golfzone features. I invite you to do that and check it out. And just taking a quick glance at the numbers, there are roughly 62 million rounds played on golf simulators every year, and 59 million of those are done on a Golfzone system, which is pretty impressive, to say the least. There's over 6,200 commercial facilities worldwide using our systems in over 60 countries. So a lot of numbers there, but the short story is that we're the global leader in golf simulators by leaps and bounds. And we've been here in the US for 4 years. Each of those years, we've been named the Golf Digest Editor's Choice Award for Best Premium Simulator. It's an accolade that we're very proud of, and we look forward to rising to the occasion to meet that challenge every year.
Thank you, Jimmy. The numbers are staggering, aren't they? If you think of 60 odd million rounds of golf a year, and every single shot is captured and stored in the cloud, that's billions and billions of shots that we joked when we started our association with Golfstone that we were going to sit David in a room and get him to analyze the 6 billion shots that they had on file, just to see if he could pick a decent swing. Might still challenge him to do that at some point. So Jimmy, thank you so much for the intro on Golfzone. Next up, Nick. Nick, would you share a little bit about the history of InRange and the technology and what it's bringing to golf right now?
Absolutely. Thanks, Ben. Yeah, so at InRange, the team that has built the InRange radar ball tracking technology, previously a team that was tracking stars, took that technology, took that expertise and the love of golf, and said, right, how do we take what we can do looking for the big bang and apply that to the golf driving range? So we've got a distributed radar ball tracking technology, which allows us to track balls from every single bay at a driving range, whether that's a 10 bay range or 120 bay range, with crazy accuracy all the time. So ultimately, that's just what we do. The reason why we're doing it is to take that technology, open up the game of golf to a whole new kind of player, and ultimately redefine what it means to practice or play the game of golf.
Fantastic. Well, we have the technology here at our world headquarters in Champions Gate, and we're proud, obviously, that we could help with some of the development of the system. And it really changes everything once you can track every ball, and what you then do with that data in terms of perfecting practice and entertainment and everything else is really revolutionary. So I'm sure we'll get onto a lot of that technology during the session. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, our partnership with Leadbetter has really been critical in getting to where we are today. Both the intelligence that's come into how we brought in strokes gained and scoring, David's insights into how you want to practice as you play. So each of the, playing to targets, playing off the tee, all of that being scored in terms of your handicap and your skill set. It's really been a great partnership, and looking forward to that long into the future.
Thanks, Nick. And then over to Peter. Give us I think everybody in golf has heard of Golf Digest over the years, and it really is one of the most prestigious names probably in golf, certainly in golf media. So Peter, bring us up to date with Golf Digest, and obviously the new agreement with Discovery Channel.
Well, I guess what I can say with certainty is that we are the most traditional brand on the panel here. And that doesn't mean that we're not working hard on technology. I mean, I think not long ago, Golf Digest was a monthly print magazine. Landed in your mailbox, and you put it on the coffee table or the nightstand, and hopefully flip through it a lot. But it was one product, and technology has allowed us to basically deliver our content every day, 24/7. Apps and websites, social platforms, video like you can't believe. I mean, everything we do now has a video element. So rather than pushing out one product and essentially saying to people, here's our gift of the month, figure out how to use it, we're able to, through technology, to personalize the content, to customize it, make it interactive. We're learning more about our readers, what they want, what their challenges are, what their spending habits are. So essentially, we're able to connect with them on a personal level and create ultimately their version of Golf Digest. And it's a relationship that's happening every minute of every day, as much as you want it. So it's that consistency of getting the brand in front of people. Technology is, that's really where we are right now. And then it's customizing the content and being able to learn about our readers and essentially delivering their own personal relationship with Golf Digest. So it's a lot different than what you guys are talking about, but it's certainly all technology based.
That's fantastic. I hugely value all of the insights that Golf Digest over the years has brought, and I know it's not just covering golf. It covers everything from instruction to equipment to tournaments, top of the game to the bottom of the game. So it really is covering all aspects. You have an insight and a knowledge in every part of the game.
Well, not personally, but I do appreciate
that. Okay, guys, I think what I'd like to do is maybe pose a question to you as a starting point. I think the obviously the objective of this is to try and share a few insights with our listeners, which are going to be a cross sector of golf coaches and golf fans and golfers themselves. But I think what everybody kind of wants to learn is what role technology should play in golf. Maybe that's some of the positives and some of the negatives that you've seen. And what's the responsibility of golf to kind of take technology on board? So maybe perhaps I can start that question with you.
Yeah, sure, Ben. 30,000 foot view level, I think it's true with everything, not just golf, is the role of technology, to oversimplify, is to make our lives easier. If it doesn't make your life easier in what you're trying to accomplish, then technology is not doing a good job. Whether that's with the baseball teams you work with a baseball coach, it's winning games, and our technology is trying to help them win games. With a tournament player in golf, they want to shoot lower scores, they want to post higher results. So it's very results driven. For an average golfer, maybe it's having fun. It's providing some enjoyment For a teacher, it's the translation of technology of data back and forth. But it has to make your life easier in whatever you're trying to accomplish. Otherwise, it's not doing the job. And I think that a lot of there's a lot of data for data's sake nowadays. A lot of technology is actually making your life more complicated. And that is exactly opposite of the role. I think good technology makes your life easier. In the startup world, we always talk about solving a problem, right? You have to solve a problem. And then many times you see people have solutions looking for a problem, right? The old solution looking for a problem, and that is the rabbit hole that technology can go down. And I think our job as leaders or workers in the technology field, we have to make sure that it makes somebody's life easier.
I think that's well said, and that's a very natural segue, because I'm sure, Nick, you started out with a problem that you wanted to solve with technology. What's your take on it in terms of the role that technology should be playing in golf?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Yeah, I mean, Art, very well said. We saw a shift in certain sporting markets, and we saw a shift, I mean, to be honest, from golf to those other markets. So we saw people moving from golf to things like cycling, and they become attractive because of, if we use the term weekend warriors, because things like Strava, things like GPS tracking watches allowed that weekend warrior to race like a pro, to train like the pro, and we believe that golf was really behind in this, but I think it is catching up quickly. Our view, and I think one that's always been a tenet of the Leadbetter brand, is that technology there is an enabler. It's to allow all players, whether it be, regardless of their skill level, to assess, how are they playing today, and really to sort of quantify their progress. And really what we wanted to do is say, as we saw happen in other sports, take technology that was only available to the pros and effectively democratize that, bring that and make that available to everybody. Because when you can practice with competition, whether it be against yourself or against others, it changes the whole game, and it really just lifts the game for you. And I think, Art, as you very well said, our job as technology providers, and perhaps anybody who claims to be an expert, is to take the complex, make it simple. Give me one number, give me one simple set of metrics that says, how did I play today, and am I getting better? And that, coupled with a coach, can only grow golf.
Just following up on that, obviously, as golf as an enabler, Jimmy, if we look at what Golfstone has done in Korea and is now doing in the rest of the world, it's introducing people to the game. What's your take on how technology is helping golf?
Yeah, that's a huge part of what we're doing, is just trying to lower the barrier for entry for people. And I think everyone on this panel is doing that in their own way. Our take is certainly to make golf entertaining. We want, there was a lot of social media about posts about Rory McIlroy wearing a hoodie on the golf course. I'm sure you guys saw that. And that's a barrier for some people. Just seeing that and hearing that is like, what's going on here? So when you look at a Golfzone system and you look at any of the simulators out there in the marketplace, what we're doing is making a comfortable place for anybody to walk in and just hit some shots and laugh with their friends. And a lot of times that's going to light the fire in somebody, and they're going to graduate to a real golf course, and they're going to become big time ambassadors of the game, and they're going to get their friends playing. And I think the role of the simulators is to just lower the barrier for entry and make people comfortable to come out and play and see what the game is all about. And sure, we've got the data there as well. You can use it as a training device if you want to. All of that is there. It's built into it. But if we can get the weekend warriors who went to cycling, for example, and get them to take a peek at golf again, I think that's why we're here.
What's your take on that, Peter? Obviously you've got measurements. You can measure how many people are engaged in golf, and I'm sure next week with the Masters there'll be a big spike in interest again. But what's your take on how technology is, or what should technology be doing for the game?
Well, I think with technology, it just gives you more options, right? I mean, we're able to slice and dice things. People can find their specialty. And golfers are crazy, of course, and they want to do everything. So if it's total absorption, and I want to do, I want all the content, I want all the different ways to play. We like to say that playing golf for us now, with Golf Digest, we say it's whenever you can swing a golf club. So in that way, it's very simple. But I also think that the technology brings options. So you have the gamification, you have simulators, you have this incredible data crunch on how you play and how you swing. And so I think that, the old version of golf where you play on Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, and it was a very simple game. The game has become complicated, but in a beautiful way. I mean, it allows you to find other ways to enjoy it. It allows you to experience it and bring new people into it all different ways. So I think people talk about the dangers of technology, and it can complicate the game, and it could potentially push people away from the game. I don't believe in that. I think that it's really just expanding the game, and it's making it more accessible and more enjoyable on different levels.
You think the patrons at Augusta National ever be allowed to take a phone on the course?
Yes. I don't know how you could stop that. You remember, 5 years ago, clubs had all these rules. You couldn't bring your cell phone, and then everybody backed off. They said, you can't stop the cell phone. We have to find a way to make it work, because people crowding in their cars in the parking lot, and now, technology, cell phones are ubiquitous. You can't stop the cell phone. So you have to find a way, we're finding ways to put all of our content on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's a challenge, but it's the one device that it never leaves their side. So if you're a content company, you have to be looking at the phone. That's where it is.
Yeah. Well, listen, step by step, we have a wonderful tradition as a sport, and I think that's something that the balance will be. I think we'll get it right. I think the industry as a whole wants to protect the traditions of the game, and I use Augusta as an example just because obviously there's so much heritage and history behind that tournament. But the probably reality is you want more, right? Consumers now want to know every player, every shot they've hit, the second they hit it, what the probability is that they're going to hold the putt, and you're seeing that now coming through how the broadcast media is actually bringing the sport to people.
Absolutely, and I think even new golfers, they respect the traditions of the game. It's a game that's, as you could argue, has been slow to move. But I think that's some of the appeal of it, is that it is so rich in tradition, and we're pivoting and finding ways to update the game, but still keep intact what people love about it. I mean, it is still an escape for a lot of people. It's a way to get away from some of the noise in life. But as everybody in this panel is saying, there are ways to use technology to enhance the experience and not to make it more complicated.
So I think there's a common theme. Obviously, we're hearing from everyone that this technology that's coming in is allowing us to reach new audiences and to bring the game to different people. I think we certainly believe from the standpoint we come from in terms of teachers, that we have a responsibility to grow the game by making it simpler to learn. And when you look at the barriers to entry, the obvious ones of time and cost, if you put them to the side for a minute, the other barriers of entry into golf is typically it's an incredibly difficult game. We like that because that keeps us coaches in business, because people always need to learn and take lessons. But it's true, right? Compared to kicking a soccer ball or playing, throwing a ball or going running or swimming, these are much more less technical sports to learn. So golf has a barrier because you have to learn to be able to play it. I think that's one area which, as coaches, we're using technology these days to help people to learn more quickly. So I'd be really kind of interested to know your viewpoint on that. Perhaps obviously there isn't a golfer that starts golf today that doesn't have a mobile phone in their pocket, and obviously you're using that now to track the ball. How is Rapsodo making it easier for people to learn the game?
Yeah, I think, Ben, as you talk about that in general technology, as technologists, you're getting data, and you have data acquisition. You're all excited about showing that data, and there's a little bit of a rush to show as much as you can, and then you gradually, as time goes, you figure out what do people really need to see, and then how do you simplify that in a way that's easier to digest. So I think you're seeing that as a natural evolution in a lot of the teaching methods out there. I mean, I remember back when I joined the golf industry in 1989. I remember when I joined as a young engineer at Titleist, dating myself. I remember that you had the old AGC room. You walked in there, you turned out all the lights, you had the strobes, you had to put the lines on the ball, and you hit, and you had a flash, and you had a double exposure on a Polaroid. You took the Polaroid out, you blew on it, you dried it up, you took your ruler and you measured the distances between the two balls, and you took a ruler and a protractor, and you figured it all out, and you drew all the lines, and about 10 minutes later you came up with a number. That was for one shot. That was one shot. Took all that time. A few people working on that. By 96, we had it about in the size of a toaster oven that you would take out, and you still had to put it on you had to put the marks on the dots on the ball and take it outside. And then now we got it in your phone. And so I think what Nick, I love the word democratization. The idea of the democratization of this data that was only available to the top 1% of 1% of athletes is now available to anybody that has one of these, is just incredible. And it's our job to figure out how to give them that data that makes their life easier, as opposed to more complicated. I think that's the idea of getting into the personalization of what am I trying to accomplish? Do I want to figure out, hey, should I be what loft wedge should I be using? 54, 56. Well, let's just go look at my numbers. And hey, should I have a 3-wood? Do I need a 15 degree or a 13 degree? Well, let's just look, and I can track that based on my swing, based on my shots. I have all the history here in my phone, and so now it's like having your coach or your caddy or your analyst. If you had a analyst department, you have an analyst department now in your pocket at any time.
I think there's a really interesting parallel that you have to draw, right, between providing data and giving data to people, but then knowing what to do with it, and how to drive insights. So I think you're spot on in terms of the statistician's job is to drive insights from data so that you can apply it.
And I'd even go as far as say, Ben, that if you don't do that, and if we just throw data out there, then we're doing a disservice. It's actually a negative. It's not neutral. It's negative. It takes up people's minds, putting them in the wrong direction. And as an industry, we're doing ourselves a disservice if we don't explain it correctly.
How did you solve that, Nick? Obviously, there was a ton of data now coming in. What was the process that InRange went through to say, well, we now know every single shot that this golfer has hit on the driving range, but what was your process? I know you're using shots gained quite a lot, so explain that thought process to us.
Yeah, so it was very much as I was saying. It's how do we spent a lot of time speaking to a lot of golfers for a long time, and there were two key things that came up that were identified as problems that were worth solving. One, the very simple, I don't know how far I hit my clubs, which is a nice simple problem to solve, but meaningful. And the other was, I enjoy my practice, but I don't really know how well I'm doing. So it was then for us to say, right, how do we create a system? How do we create something where anybody, be it myself, and Ben, you know how good my golf is, to go and play, to have us playing at the edge of our ability, and understand how well we're doing against the metric that matters to us. So we then took that concept of strokes gained and said, right, it doesn't just have to be for your scratch player. Let's take it. We took it everywhere from a 10 to a plus 40 at that point, and said, right, anybody playing, when they're playing, they get scored against their own handicap. So each of their targets is scaled based on where they should be playing on their handicap, and then they know in the moment, this is how well I'm playing. We then take that data by shot and aggregate it up to the session. So I can have a look at my session, and very simply, I have a look, open up my phone after my session. All of my data has been synced to my phone. It says, right, today you played better or worse than your handicap. If you want to drill down, you can see, okay, off the tee, I'm playing really well, but my long approach is really letting me down. And if you want to go into the individuals, into your clubs, you can do so. But we rarely advise people, and we try and get people to say, just take that top views, just say, right, how am I doing? And then I think, Ben, something you didn't go into, but maybe is something, maybe the elephant in the room is, does technology have the risk of replacing the coach? That's people are, that's always the fear with technology. Is this going to make me redundant? And our view is very, very strongly no. There's no ways that technology replaces a great coach. We really see that as something that augments the coaching experience. It's the, we were talking earlier before this, it's the connective tissue. I think that was you, Peter. It's the connective tissue between the sessions. It allows me to say, right, I learned something from David today. I tried it, and then I can come and report back and say, right, there we go. I can now hit my driver off the tee, and that is progress. So it's in the moment. How did I do? And then if I look back over 12 months, I started off as a 24, and here I am sitting as with an in-range handicap of 12. That can only be a good thing. I feel, as you said, Ben, it's a complex game. So if I can just have that smallest thing that says I'm getting that a little bit better, it keeps me in the game and keeps me coming back.
Well, I think that's certainly from our perspective as coaches, what we're always trying to explain to golfers is the ball is the result of whatever you have done up at that point, right? So you're tracking the result. What we can do as coaches is to help fix it and change the result through technique. But by collecting the progress that they're making and actually measuring it and giving them practice plans that are deliberately created for their specific weakness in their game. And we see golfers going to driving ranges just hammering their driver all day, and the percentage of shots you actually use your driver for on the golf course is minimal, right? So you can't lie and you can't hide, you can't run away with it. And I know we have a connection on Strava, so we can see how we're doing, right? And what it does is it holds you accountable. And I think there's companies like yours and like Strava that are collecting this data. It starts to become habitual that you would no longer, I personally know I would never go for a run or a ride or a swim unless I have my watch tracking my progress against the target that is then uploaded into Strava, right? And so golf is the same. It has a huge amount of data and has a huge amount of potential habitual nature that essentially just makes you more accountable for your practice and makes it better.
100%. I mean, there's nothing worse for me. I go on a trip and I leave my charger behind. I try to go for a run. Why bother running if I can't get a track? And in the same way, to be honest, I can't go to a driving range now if I'm not getting track data on my balls. It's kind of like, well, why bother?
You think there will be a day where there's a driving range without technology?
I don't think any driving range worth its salt within 3 to 5 years won't have tracking technology, personally.
It's certainly the way it's moving, isn't it? And I know obviously there's a very commercial reason for that, which again, Jimmy, maybe I can bring you in here in terms of what Golfzone's doing, but the driving ranges and the entertainment facilities make more profit than golf courses traditionally, and obviously take up a smaller space. So it's bringing a new commercial model where by enhancing the driving range experience, you're able to monetize it. I know in Korea, Jimmy, Golfzone has facilities set up specifically for practice, GDR, Golfzone driving ranges, and we have one here at the academy. It's essentially a simulator for practice and for coaching. Where in your mind, Jimmy, does Golfzone, where is it taking it with this GDR simulator in terms of a tool that is set up for practice and game improvement?
Yeah, so the driving ranges that we see out in the world that are at golf courses and the standalone driving ranges are great, and it's great that you can have that data that's with you there, whether it be on your cell phone or a launch monitor. But what the GDR is able to accomplish is it's going to customize the driving range. It's going to customize that experience to whatever you need it to be for that practice session. So it's going to change your targets. It's going to give you different things to look at, different ways to engage you in that experience. So instead of looking downrange at just this field with a couple of targets out there, now we can really tailor that experience to whatever the user wants to see in that practice session, or whatever the coach wants that user to see in that practice session. So bringing it to the virtual world, I think there's some added benefit, even though you're not seeing a real golf ball fly downrange. The accuracy of these launch monitors has come such a long way that we can really rely on the flight that we see on the screen. And in doing that, using that virtual space to create a customized driving range experience that fully engages the student in their practice session, fully engages the teacher over the course of that lesson, and really it helps to have the numbers and the visuals and the targets to hit at. It's just an all-encompassing full 360 practice session.
I think the other aspect is that it takes up a lot less space, doesn't it? So if you're shorter space, like a lot of city center locations, right? Sometimes it takes you a long time to get out to a golf course. What the GDR or simulators can do is bring practice indoors or golf indoors into urban environments, and removes a lot of those barriers to say, oh, it's too far away. For a developer to say, I need 350 yards, 400-yard driving range. Now you can say, well, actually, we can take this indoors. It can be in the basement of a building, a hotel complex, or wherever. So I think obviously there's an enabling nature behind simulators in that regard.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, we even look at what's happening at golf courses that face seasonal closings. You know, places in the Northeast or the Midwest that are going to shut down for the winter time when they're snow covered. You don't have to close your range now. You can bring it inside if you have a spare room in the clubhouse, or even set up a pop-up simulator in the ballroom that's not getting used. You know, there's ways to keep people coming in, practicing, taking lessons, using that data, getting better, staying connected to the game. And like you said, you don't need a lot of space for it.
I think that's one of the most exciting things. When David and I first went to Korea to meet Golfzone, one of the most exciting things we saw was that we could bring an opportunity for coaches to start teaching indoors and taking their coaching to the people where they live and work. And it just brings a whole new opportunity from a coaching perspective. That's why we're excited about what the GDR can bring. We're excited about getting it over here in the US and start, getting into the hands of coaches. So to your point, through the winter months where golf courses are closed in the northern locations or in the evenings at nighttime, no excuse not to practice your game and for a coach to work on it. Peter, let me probably a good segue into what Golf Digest, schools, and Rapsodo is doing. Can you just explain the concept behind the partnership of what you're going to bring together using the Golf Digest teachers and Rapsodo's technology?
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to respond to something that Art was saying, because I think it's totally right on the point. The technology, the way I see it, I've been involved in golf instruction for a long time, is that for most of its life, it was a trust me profession. It was, I've got a good eye, I've got good training, get up there and hit some balls and I'll tell you what I see. And it's obviously not like that anymore. So I think the golf instructor's job has gotten more complicated, but in an incredible way, because now they can, mirroring everything else that's happening in the world, they can say, here's the data, here are the metrics, here's why this works. So it's not just you're relying on my eye and you're relying on my anecdotal advice to get better. So I think that's an amazing opportunity. But to Nick's point about how necessary is the instructor, is that the more technology and the more information that's out there, the more important it is to have a partner who can help you understand. I guess what I'm trying to say is it worse to know too much or to know nothing? I think maybe too much, because then you're a complete basket case. So I think that really smart and thoughtful instructors, that part of the game is going to grow tremendously, because technology is going to force the hand of people to find help and find good help, people who can really guide them and help them navigate. Yeah, Golf Digest schools, I'll do a little stumping here. This is a video on demand program. It's a separate subscription that we started about 3 years ago. It's essentially all of our premium instruction video content with all the big names, players and teachers, and we've put it on a platform, and it's a separate subscription from Golf Digest called Golf Digest Schools. So we've got about 400 video lessons in there right now, and it's doing great, and we're growing the heck out of it. The next iteration of this is remote coaching, so virtual learning. So we're creating a community of coaches called Coach Connect, which initially will be all Golf Digest ranked teachers on one ranking or list or another. And we're going to connect them with golfers. The first iteration of it is kind of standard video and chat back and forth. But the one we're really excited about is we're calling Tier 3, and this is where Rapsodo and the mobile launch monitor come in, is that the student will have an opportunity to share not only their swing, but also shot data through their practice sessions. So this is a complete game changer in terms of a remote relationship and being able to see not only the swing, but also the results of every shot in a practice session. We think that's just going to be amazing. And as technology grows and the thirst for technology grows, we think we're kind of getting ahead of the curve in terms of connecting teachers and players, not only in a traditional way, but with technology that makes that student-teacher relationship just so much richer and potentially more productive.
Listen, we totally echo your thoughts. If I go back to April, May of this year, and I was faced with a team of golf coaches with no clients in front of them due to the lockdown, if we didn't have the technology to be able to teach players at home and stay connected to them and help them with their game, we'd have been lost. So in some ways, this pandemic maybe has accelerated that a little bit and created a bit more of a norm now that people are happy to take advice from home. Perhaps the golf coach, in terms of that responsibility, no longer has to rely on just being in person. I think there's obviously a huge amount of value if a teacher and their student are together, because you can have a deeper lesson. But in terms of progress, it's probably a huge step forwards in terms of being able to stay connected. What's your take on that, Art?
I mean, based on what Nick was saying on how pros might be worried that it's going to obsolete them, I think it's exactly the opposite. It actually allows you to connect more. Lessons lessons and club fitting, for example, both of them right now are very static, one of a time snapshots. It's I go in and maybe I go back in a few months, maybe I don't. If I go back in 2 months, generally it's another snapshot at that point in time, and there's very little communication between them. So you get into snapshot. Club fitting, maybe once a year, maybe once every few years, snapshot. With the data that we can provide, where it's all on your phone, we can track every single shot you've hit on the range, or even if you take it out on the golf course. Now you have an ongoing relationship. So now as a teacher, I can communicate back and forth with you constantly if I want to. I could be sending you swings. I'm here. I send you the swing on my phone, and boom, that's and I could send that to you with the shot trace, and I can hit send.
You want our opinion on that swing, Art? Or
No, because then I can also show you that there's my scatter on my shots, and I'm hitting my drivers about the same as my 3-wood, and I can go in my data and say, oh yeah, that's because my launch angle, I'm hitting higher ball speeds, but my launch angle is too low on my driver, and so from a club fitting standpoint, I need to change the loft on my driver, and that's something that changes. That's something that's kind of an ongoing, and we talk with club fitters and teaching professionals all the time that this is a way to lengthen that relationship with your student. It's not replacing it. It's actually helping have that relationship be longer and hopefully more beneficial.
I think what we see. Yeah, go on, Peter. Yeah, please.
Ben, I just wanted to jump in there. I love this idea of this kind of connecting sessions and having a thread. But I also think from the new golfer standpoint, we've all heard that the percentage of golfers who take lessons is 10% or something like that. So what we hear anecdotally is, why don't people take lessons? Well, I'm not good enough to take lessons. I'm not a real golfer, or it's the convenience or the cost. All of these things are overcome by the remote experience. Okay, so if you're intimidated to stand in front of a teacher and hit balls because you don't feel like you're good enough, virtual lessons completely take that out. Virtual lessons are also less expensive. You can also pretty much do them on your own time. So this idea of breaking down barriers to grow the game, technology's breaking down barriers to learn how to swing a golf club. I mean, I think that's a huge part of it. And I think that when we start tracking the use of these technologies versus how long someone's been in the game, I think we're going to find that beginning golfers, this is going to be a huge boom for them.
Yeah, I would certainly echo that. I think the other aspect from our standpoint, when we're dealing with coaches day to day and the education of coaches, what the technology really starts to do is to weed out the best coaches from the rest. And what will end up happening is that the golfer will now have a measure of how successful their lessons are. So yeah, probably the biggest message or the biggest insight we would have for anybody listening is that unless as a coach you're investing in your own knowledge, you'll get found out. And unless you understand these things, and so it's a wonderful opportunity to stay connected with golfers, but it will end your career unless you really understand enough about the game and you really invest in your own knowledge as a teacher.
Butch Harmon had a great line. He told me one time, I said, what's the difference between teaching tour players and average golfers? And he said, well, with a tour player, you better be right, because they can prove you wrong. Right. They can hit a shot and turn around and say that wasn't right. So, I mean, that's kind of be true with technology with everyone. You basically see changes you make, how are they affecting the metrics? How are they affecting the numbers? But I think as we're all saying, as teachers get better, I mean, you'll be held to a higher standard, but essentially you'll be better at your craft. And that's just moving forward.
Yeah, that's so true. I think the other part of this is making practice entertaining. And right now, there probably is a perception that, well, I'll go down the driving range. I'll make the effort to go to the driving range. I'll grab a bucket of balls. I'll hit them kind of aimlessly. I won't know where they've gone. I'll probably end up getting worse because you're kind of refining poor technique. From an entertainment perspective, Nick, what's your opinion on gamifying practice?
Yeah. So you spoke earlier about three factors when it comes to the barriers to entry. You spoke about cost, you spoke about time, complexity, and I think Jimmy touched on something I want to bring us back to. It's this concept of cultural accessibility. So the range, there is an opportunity. There's a huge opportunity, and we've seen it now play out at our partner ranges, where you can attract a totally different type of person to that range. Somebody who would not have thought of themselves as a golfer, and the industry won't necessarily see them at the moment as a golfer, but they come in, and what we've done with our In-Range Plus, our sort of gamified entertainment golf concept, is we've said, right, how do we from the ground up build something that acts as effectively the social grease? It's an alternative to going to the movies, etc., and you can have that at your local range. So I mean, just looking at the numbers, if we look at some of our ranges over the last year or so, we've seen a 30 to 50% increase in the volume of balls hit. And if I look now at the split of those golfers, we've got 30 to 40% of the play at those ranges is people who we would not have seen as golfers. So they come in with 2 or 3 friends. We see a huge number of date nights, of groups of ladies just out for an evening, corporate outings, and these people are attracted to the range. It's Topgolf has created a concept, and what we're looking to do is make that available to general ranges down the road. So that brings people in the game, and those people, they may never see a course, and that's okay. But I mean, if we've now doubled, or close to doubled the number of people who are at that range, the people who've now had access to the game of golf would go, actually, this is not so scary. this is actually pretty good. This is something I might like to try. Then they progress from, okay, I was in a group of people. I played a bit of fun golf for an evening. You know what? It's just down the road. Let me try. I go there on my own. I try a bit of practice. I go for a bit of coaching. And then there's that next barrier where, and this is something obviously that Golfstone's done really well. It's okay. So how do I go from being at the range to sort of getting over that barrier to go, now I'm going to go stand in front of the clubhouse on the first tee, and that's a scary experience. I mean, I remember the first time I had to do it. That is scary. But if you can now take a virtual golf experience, something that Golfstone's done, something we've brought now to the outdoor range, you can stand there, you can play virtual golf, you can get over that initial fear. So by the time you hit your first actual course, you've played 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rounds at your range. We see that happening a lot at our ranges. Coaches migrate the guys from there to a virtual course, and then they organize an outing to an actual course. And we think that that really has legs, both keeping people in this entertainment side. It's a real, as you said, Ben, a real commercial proposition for those ranges. I mean, the guys are seeing huge returns for that, but also for the game of golf. I think golf can embrace this. These are people that we want. These are people we want to attract to the game of golf, and we don't want to see them as diluting the sort of the purity of it. I think we should embrace
it. Jimmy, what's your thoughts on e-golf as a concept, as a sport? Obviously, the esports world is booming. I think there's about a 30% growth year on year in terms of esports coverage. The media are all now behind it. Do you think there's a future for there to be a simulated virtual golf tour that complements the PGAs and European LPGA tours?
Yeah, there's not just a future for it, it's here now. So in Korea, where Golfzone is a little more prevalent than it is here in the US, there are 2 professional tours. We call them the G Tour. But a lot of those athletes who are competing on the G Tour are also competing on the KPGA Tour and the KLPGA Tour. So if they fail to Monday qualify for that week's tour event, they hop over and they play on the Golfzone Sims, and they play in those tour events, which are broadcast on the Korean Golf Channel. They're playing for $3 million in prize money, so the money's real. The broadcasts, the people tuning in, that's real. I think it's bridging the cultural gap here and making this thing attractive enough to consumers in the US, but that's, in my opinion, just a matter of time. The esports world is absolutely on fire right now. There's so much money in that business, and I think esports is going to grow to simulated sports. It's not just going to be PlayStation and Xbox games for very long. We're going to see these augmented reality games like golf simulation. And as long as the tournament aspect is real and it's done right, that's going to engage the competitors, and that's going to engage the fans.
And kind of bringing that back, the only way that you can play simulated golf is to learn to play golf, and it's the same swing, it's the same ball, it's the same club. So as an industry, I'm kind of keen, Nick or Peter, what your thoughts are on the future of a simulator golf tour.
Well, I'll jump in. I think the definitions in golf are changing. I said earlier that we at Golf Digest, we like to say anytime someone can pick up a golf club, that's playing golf. And I'm sure other industries with technology, I mean, the traditional definitions change because there's just new options, there's new opportunities. And, the question of do these golfers who are essentially in simulators, do they become real golfers? Maybe it doesn't matter. I mean, golf is changing. It's a lot broader than it was, and I don't know that we have to put a name on it. It's people that are enjoying the sport in different ways. So I think e-golf it's so interesting because it's just another one of these out there ideas that is slowly becoming reality. I mean, if you talked about these things 2 or 3 years ago, you'd say, yeah, that's some crazy vision of something. But when the technology becomes available and there's an audience for it, I think 5 years from now we'll have this panel and we'll say, I can't believe what we were talking about 5 years ago. That's the nature of technology. So I think it's so exciting. I mean, having more people with golf clubs in their hands, boy, that's got to be a good thing, whatever it leads to.
It's also limited, right, Art, that you're no longer on a simulated world. You're no longer restricted to 18 holes of golf over a period, right? So it could be anything that we can imagine it to be.
I think what Jimmy says is already true, that it's already here. I mean, on our device, you can come here and you can enter a game right now. I could send in, I guess, October's spooky long drive. I can enter my drive that I just hit into this game. I can compete internationally with anybody that has this now, and we're giving away prizes. We're giving prizes. Could we turn that into a tour? Absolutely. We do virtual long drive, virtual closest to the pin, and it's all through the idea that now it's a $500 unit that's portable that you can take with you, as opposed to a $20,000 or $16,000 unit. So now, and it's only going to get more efficient and more efficient and more efficient. Technology is going to get it more accessible, and I mean it's here. I think it's and with the gambling, with the betting aspect in the U.S. Introduced in it, I think it's only going to add to that.
Art, don't send in that drive you showed us before. I don't think you're going to win. Pick another one. Pick another.
Maybe I get to tip the scales a little bit, maybe, if it's our competition.
Art can just adjust the numbers in the back anyway. That's a 300-yard drive. Nick, I think you already have blackjack as a game, right? One of the featured entertainment is playing 21 blackjack within in-range.
Exactly. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, coming back to the question you asked earlier, Ben, I think it all comes down to trust. So I think technology's now got to the point where, you stand in a Golfstone sim, you stand in, at an in-range range. When you hit the ball, I can see it went 230 yards with my eye. I look over here, that's where it went. Now, as soon as you get to a point where it's reliable, it tracks every shot, it's accurate, it goes where it says, then that opportunity for this now to be a real thing that is competitive, that people can really get behind, is there. People. I talk to people. There's two types of people who are interested in range. It's the sort of, I want to bring the enhanced practice experience, and then there's the guys who talk about the entertainment and they see the opportunity there. And every once in a while, somebody will say, "Oh, well, it's entertainment. Accuracy doesn't matter." And it's like, actually, it's the opposite. When you're there with your mates and you see that it hit the target and the system tells you that it went, 5 meters right, the trust goes, the fun goes. When I go out there and I top it and I only get it 10 yards, I want it to be tracked, because, I'm embarrassed enough if you now make me hit the ball again. So it's about that reliability. It's about hitting every single shot. And that's what we aim to do, to really be that. Yeah.
Do you think the competitive nature, the competition that's in it is key? Because I think that's one of the most engaging parts of the games you've developed in range, is how competitive they are, both against yourself but against a leaderboard of other people.
I mean, I don't have Murray. So our keenest user in the entire world is a chap by the name of Murray. Now Murray goes down to Greenwich every single month, and he makes sure that he's at the top of that leaderboard. In fact, I think the guys at Greenwich are getting irritated with him because he's hitting so far, he's hitting it over the nets at the back, because he brings his own ball. I mean, he buys his own balls so he can get to the top of the leaderboard. So that competitive nature, he's there every single week. So yeah, it's all about competition. And as you say, Ben, often, and what we found a lot in talking to people, it's not necessarily me competing against you. It's me competing against me last week. And that's what it's, yeah. But speaking personally, it's all about competition. That's what drives me, and that's what drives what we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's exclusive to golf either. That's human nature. That's competitive with other people, competitive with your friends, competitive within yourself. That's what makes us people.
No, the Z-Strict facility, right? The one that Golfstone opened in Stamford last year, or a couple of years ago now. The whole concept was competition, wasn't it? That you can come in, you can play for prizes, you can bet against your buddies. And that's very different than maybe what was developed in Korea. That was quite maybe an Americanized version of the software.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it was created just for the U.S. market. And look, you have the ability. We run tournaments there all the time, and those tournaments are, me competing against you. There's a leaderboard. You're playing stroke play. It's a golf tournament, right? The other aspect to this is the system is going to challenge you. So you might get up to a par 5, you might be 220 yards from the green, and the system will say, hey, a little pop-up will show up and it'll say, if you make this, I'll give you $1,000. And it'll just challenge you while you're going throughout the golf course. It will bait you and it'll hook you. And we found that I think it's like 85% of the users that go into Z-Strict are doing that challenge mode, where it's going to give them these monetized challenges. You know, hey, if you chip it in, I'll give you $50. So we found that that has been really successful here in the United States. And I mean, we've got one location. We're planning to expand it, but that's the whole model here.
I think that's all about getting into the cultural side of what makes people tick. And I think you guys both just said it, that the competitive nature of sport is what gets people coming back. And I think that's probably certainly from listening to all of you for the last hour, that maybe that's the technology's most important role, is creating an environment and a culture where people are engaged, excited, and wanting to take part. And maybe that's just what golf has needed. I don't think it does anything to diminish the original form of the game. And there are so many benefits to traditional golf on a golf course that will always remain, I think. But what a great opportunity to increase the number of people playing the sport. We're kind of close to the top of the hour here with this session. I do want to make sure everyone has a kind of a chance, maybe a final comment, a final thought on where will we be in 5 years' time. Let's assume there isn't a pandemic and we're not having to do this all virtually, but where will golf be in 5 years' time? Maybe as I started with you at the beginning, perhaps you'd kind of want to kick off on this one.
I'll speak again. The democratization, the data comes down. It's essentially connected golfer, so that every single shot, every single club I've used, every single, all of that being connected and connected to your own, like with Arcos data, being connected to your on-course play. So really the ability to have a coach or an analyst in your pocket telling you what you should be doing, what you should do with your swing, what you should be doing with your equipment, and how you should be hitting shots out on the golf course in real time is all there. And it's just going to, over the next 18, 24 months, it's all going to come together to the people that want that coach in a pocket. So we each kind of have our own entourage that the PGA Tour players have out on the range. We'll have that all on our own, but we're going to have it in our pocket on our phone.
Nick, over to you. Where will we be 5 years' time? In range, thousands of locations. I'm sure that's your
locations. I think our goal. We've doubled, maybe tripled the number of people who we see as golfers in the world. More people see this as an accessible sport for them, and golf welcomes them with open arms. And every single weekend warrior is tracking every single training session, and they can't possibly have a training session without having that quantified data. I think that's where we go.
Jimmy, we're going to have a global simulator golf tour that we'll be tuning in to watch on Discovery TV every weekend.
That's the goal. Yeah, as President Hoover said, a chicken in every pot. I want a Golfzon simulator in every basement.
Good stuff. And Peter, just maybe final word from you. Where do you think we'll be 5 years from now?
Golf will be booming. Golf Digest editors will be getting rich, making money hand over fist. I think of two things. Going back to what Nick said, I think the serious golfer is going to have incredible tools at their disposal. So you're going to see, improvement. Everybody complains about, the handicaps don't change. Well, things are really changing on the technology side, and I think that's going to give people real course of action to get better. The ones who are serious about it, there's going to be no shortage of ways to take advantage. And I think this golf as entertainment is fascinating. I guess time will tell whether that's a feeder system to traditional golf. But nobody is going to, golf as entertainment is going to naturally connect with instruction, because as we're all hinting around, nobody likes to be lousy at anything. So if you go to Top Golf and you say, I'm going to go play with my buddies, and you can't hit the ball off the tee, you're either not going to do it anymore, or you're going to say, how do I hit the ball off the tee? So that's where instruction comes in. So if you can take the golf as entertainment, hook them up a little bit with some how to do it, I think that, in my opinion, that is going to be a very effective feeder system to becoming whatever we say real golfers are. So it's a tremendously exciting time to be in the game, and time will tell, but I'm I think it's going to be really, really positive.
Well, I think we've just terrified every bad golfer out there that's now realized in 5 years' time, every duff shot, every slice is now going to be recorded and saved forever on someone's computer somewhere. So there are solutions, though. Coaching is probably the secret to that, right? So for those of you who are interested in learning more, make sure you have a look at the handouts. If you go into the panel on the right-hand side of the session, you can see a handout from our four presenters here with more information and details on their different products. If you are tuning in and you're interested to learn more about the Golfstone Leadbetter University, there are courses on there that specifically will teach you how to coach online and how to bring your knowledge of teaching online to market. So make sure you check those out. If you're a golfer terrified about having your shots recorded forever and you want to get a little bit better, you can have online remote lessons now with a Leadbetter instructor. So all of that's available if you want to have a look afterwards on leadbetter.com. From myself, Ben Richards, from Art, Peter, Jimmy, Nick, thank you so much all for taking part in this session.
Fantastic, thanks.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Ben.
And please tune in. More sessions coming your way. And if you have any feedback, then reach out to us. You'll find us on all the usual social media channels. And we very much thank you for taking part in the session. Thank you.